Hello, everyone. Welcome. So, there are some cases in history that just are mysteries. Um, People don't want to tell the truth about anything. Things are kept secret, top secret. So, tonight we're going to review the JFK assassination. All right. There has been surprisingly new evidence that has surfaced within the last few years. And President Trump has signed an executive order ordering the release of all remaining files in the JFK assassination. So, in 2016 and 2017, Congress passed, this was in 1992, they passed a law requiring disclosure of these documents. But the FBI and the CIA are like trying to extend things. And this time Trump says no. So he signed an executive order ordering and declassifying everything related to the Kennedy assassination. He also went a step further and ordered the release of Martin Luther King files to be released, and also the files in regard to the RFK assassination. So we're going to be getting a big file dump, and these documents will be made public soon. So this is some good news. At least there'll be some transparency, but I doubt there'll be a lot. All right. Our government has been keeping shit from us for over 60 years. And this is evident by Trump's executive order. So, when I was a kid, the official story by the Warren Commission never made too much sense to me. You know, how can Lee Harvey Oswald pull off such a stunt all by himself? Okay. It was like a question. I said, this doesn't jive with me. You know, so we're going to review the evidence against Lee Harvey Oswald. And I don't believe he did it alone. Some people out there say he's innocent. Hey, Katie. Some people say he's innocent. I don't think so. I think, yeah, everyone, I believe the public has the right to know what happened, what the government knew beforehand, before everything went down that fateful November day, 1963. I agree with you, Katie. There's no way he could have, in my opinion. There's no way, in my mind, that Lee Harvey Oswald did this alone. All right. And now there's evidence, new evidence, to back that story up. And it's more sinister. The truth is becoming more sinister by the moment, by everything that's being released. There are two people that are you're right, Katie. Actually, the CIA was involved. According to these two witnesses that came forward. And they're painting a completely different story as to what happened. So there are many this is such a complicated story. So I was listening to two interviews. One man confessed to killing the president. That fateful day, he claims he was in the grassy knoll. Another man, retired from the CIA, admits that he was, hey, Tracy, hey, Sarah. And one man admits that he did working for the CIA. And he gave details on what he knew happened in the weeks and months leading up to the Kennedy assassination. So this is going to be good, all right? So let's start with what President Kennedy did in office, all right? If anyone wants to turn back the clock to 1960, it was a volatile time in American history. We had civil rights as an issue. We had organized crime running rampant. We had hate groups all over the place, committing acts, violent acts against minorities. And we had the communist movement, or the anti-communist paranoia in America at that time. And President Kennedy was elected president. And it's been known for years that President Kennedy didn't put up with any bullshit. He didn't put up with any bullshit in the Oval Office. All right, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't put up with this crap. He didn't like corruption. He thought of himself as the boss, commander in chief, and you do things his way. He was elected by the people of the United States. And I believe that the government couldn't control President Kennedy. They wanted to control him and go along with his agenda. But it's been coming out for years that government agencies, including the State Department, by the way, were angry that he shut them down. He wouldn't let government officials walk all over him. And he held some people accountable for their actions. Yeah, segregation in the South was an issue. Organized crime, Kennedy's attorney general went after organized crime. He went after hate groups. He enforced Supreme Court rulings as attorney general, Bobby Kennedy or whatever. So it was a very volatile time in American history. And some people in government said, we're not going to be told what to do. We're going to do what we want and get away with it. We're not going to be shut down by the commander-in-chief because he wants to do things. He wants to avoid war at all costs. He wants to try to prevent a conflict. So there are two witnesses. So before we get to the witnesses, one of the main players in this cover-up was J. Edgar Hoover. All right. So some documents were dropped back in 2016, 2017 with memos from the FBI with Hoover himself typing or writing these memos saying we need to convince the country that Lee Harvey Oswald did this alone. Case closed. We're not investigating this any further. Isn't that strange, covering up coming from the FBI director? Now, I went through his history. I went through the FBI director's history. And for years, he denied the existence of organized crime and did a lot of things. But you got to consider the time, too, where J. Edgar Hoover was covering up his own secret, and he was possibly being blackmailed. So he was FBI director, and he was compromised at the time. And J. Edgar Hoover used the same tactic against other people. He got dirt on them and used it against people to either get what he wanted. So it was a two-way street. The FBI back then was corrupt as hell. The CIA was corrupt. I think the CIA still is, by the way. So here's the evidence against Hoover. So Hoover kept a very large collection of pornographic films, photographs, and written materials with particular emphasis of nude photos of celebrities. He reportedly used these for his own pleasure and for blackmail purposes. So J. Edgar Hoover is not innocent. He's what we call a son of a bitch. He wasn't the best person, He wasn't a person of virtue. Let's just put it that way. He just pretended to be. All right. So we had a corrupt FBI. We had an agency that was practically unregulated. And we had another three-letter agency that wanted to do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. It was like, and then we had an attorney general that upheld the law on segregation and civil rights. And that wasn't very popular either in the South, was it? So J. Edgar Hoover wasn't exactly an ally in investigating what really happened. There are memos that were released that he says, okay, we got Lee Harvey Oswald. Let's just blame it all on him. Say he's a lone wolf. And let's just have our campaign of convincing the public That was disturbing to see, actually. And I'm not surprised. I'm not really surprised by that document. So there are many layers to this. So let's just get to Lee Harvey Oswald. All right. So we know of Lee Harvey Oswald because he got arrested. And he was initially charged with the murder of J.D. Tippit at the movie theater. So the memo that I've seen was Officer Tippit responded to a radio call with a description of someone that was thought to have committed the assassination. All right. So Lee Harvey Oswald was accused of shooting a cop and running into a movie theater, crowded movie theater. And then was arrested. All right, this is history. All right, no conspiracy theory here. And the report says that he was held by the Dallas County Jail, or I don't know if it's Dallas County, but he was put in jail. And then the next morning on a Sunday, they were transferring him. I don't know if I forget, what was it, to court or his arraignment. And then Jack Ruby decides to shoot him. Interesting. Interesting concept, right? So he screams, he did it because of poor Jackie Kennedy or whatever. I don't buy that for a minute. I think this is just my opinion, but I think Jack Ruby killed Lee Harvey Oswald to keep his mouth shut. And the evidence against Lee Harvey Oswald with the murder of the cop is very, very, what do I call it? Light. I don't think it would, in today's day and age, you would get a conviction. So all they had were witnesses that saw him running. Okay. He was found armed, but the forensics from the bullets that came from Oswald's gun didn't match the bullets that came out of the officer. Ouch. How do you explain that? So you have eyewitnesses that saw him running. He admits he was there. Okay. We got several photos of him holding up rifles. All right. Big deal. All right. Some people like to do that. And then we had ammunition. And I think a gun that had Oswald's fingerprints on it. Okay. I'm not denying he could have been one of the shooters. But when I read the or listened to the audio tape and the of the motorcade in Dallas, I heard 3 shots, and then accompanied by a lighter sounding pop. Okay, so the gun they found at the book repository, you could only put 1 bullet at a time into the chamber. All right, so you had 3 shots, plus possibly a 4th. So he would hit, and those shots were very close together. All right, if you look at the film, the film's available. So it would be practically impossible, all right, for someone with that kind of weapon to load the gun, shoot it, eject the shell casing, put in another bullet, and shoot again within the time allowed. It was more than 1 shooter. All right. So I'm looking at a photo here with ammo, and then there was the weapon found at the book repository. All right. That's the only evidence they have. They have Lee Harvey Oswald's fingerprints on it. All right. That's practically the only evidence they have against Oswald with the assassination. So, who was Oswald really? Who was Lee Harvey Oswald? Well, we've been fed by our government that he was communist. He went to Russia to live for a bit. He brought back wife from the Soviet Union at the time. So here's the problem with that. Okay. American citizens with American passports couldn't travel to the Soviet Union at the time. They needed approval. Government approval. Did anyone know that? You couldn't just hop on a plane and fly to the Soviet Union. There was red tape involved. All right. So someone in the government had to approve Lee Harvey Oswald. Interesting. So in the paperwork that was released, they had Lee Harvey Oswald going to Mexico City to meet with KGB officials. Okay. And he met with a known assassin. But there's another fact in the dump that was pretty wasn't surprising, but Fidel Castro knew days before the assassination. So in a paperwork from this from a memo that was released, all right, Castro's government had equipment. We'd call it spy equipment. It's nothing complex as we call it today. It was mostly wiretapping equipment. So what Cuba would do back in the 50s and 60s, probably the 70s too, was they would wiretap people's phones in Washington. You know, like the State Department or whatever, the White House maybe. And they would record these phone calls, and it was their intelligence. All right. It was the Cold War, for fuck's sakes. So that was outed in classified material that was declassified. So Fidel Castro knew something was going on, and he ordered his little agency to switch the direction to Dallas, Texas, just days before the assassination. So you had so back then you had different countries. They had their own intelligence agencies. You had the UK, you have France, you have Europe, and then you have like these countries. And a British newspaper, hey Shelley. So the United Kingdom, someone phoned a newspaper in the UK, tipping them off. Something was going to happen in Dallas. So British intelligence agencies picked that up and sent a report warning us something was going to happen. So the British knew. Cuba knew. The FBI got tipped off. Why wasn't anything done? Now, of course, Lee Harvey Oswald, if you look at his history, he was arrested for, what was it? Handing out communist propaganda on the street. He was arrested by the New Orleans police and he had to pay a $10 fine for it. But here's what some of these documents portray, all right? So Lee Harvey Oswald is mentioned in one document, and he's present, okay, at several CIA operations. You know, like boot camp and I'm saying, why would he be allowed to be present at these boot camps? One was for Cuban dissidents who were fighting against Fidel Castro and the botched Bay of Pigs invasion. There were several others. So the documents don't say for sure. They just don't say it. But Lee Harvey Oswald was probably a member of the CIA. He organized some of this shit. That's what some of the papers suggest. He was following some of the things he was doing was he was following orders. Some of the crazy shit that the Warren Commission reported on. But how can you have a Warren Commission when not everything is handed over? So they classified at least maybe 5,000 documents and only released maybe 1,000 or two to the Warren Commission. So how is the Warren Commission supposed to get to the truth or investigate when the FBI and the CIA has everything classified and the U.S. military? That smells cover up to me. But there was also another concern back then in the 60s. They didn't want to go to war. They didn't want President Johnson bombing Havana. I'm sure that's what the CIA wanted, but so, all right. So when I heard President Trump was ordering the rest of the files declassified, no more extensions, no more delays, practically. He also ordered declassify the MLK files and the Robert Kennedy files. So this little couple videos showed up in my feed that interested me, so I decided to watch. So the one video of interest, there were three actually. The one was the evidence, the first batch of declassified documents. So the video was aired on the History Channel for everyone that's interested. And those documents that were dropped don't make much sense. You can't really put them together and put a story together. I think they did that on purpose. So there was a video that said, with the title, "I Killed President Kennedy." Yeah. So there was an inmate at an Illinois state prison that did an interview confessing that he was one of the ones involved. He was the one in the grassy knoll, he claims. He's the one who shot the president in the head. So he made a lot of explosive claims in his interview. Okay. So let's start with number one. All right. So he claims he was in the so his background was that of Jack Ruby. They knew each other. He admits that he knew Jack Ruby well. He was from Chicago, just like Jack Ruby. Oops. This guy knew Jack Ruby, knew Lee Harvey Oswald. And this guy said that Lee Harvey Oswald was a member of the CIA. He was there to supervise them while they were in Dallas. He was like the supervisor. And who were these? Who were Jack Ruby and this guy and a few others that were mentioned? They were members of a Chicago mob syndicate. Ouch. So the claim he's making is the CIA reached out to organized crime to assassinate the president of the United States. So they were the hired guns, so to speak. Yeah. So some of the claims he made, they were kind of outlandish if you really think about it. But I actually believe the guy. All right. He has nothing to gain by telling a story. He has everything to lose, actually. So this guy was serving a 50-year sentence for attempted murder. I'm not saying this guy's a nice person, but he explained how he got arrested. He tried to kill 2 cops. And he thought that they were out to kill him. They didn't identify themselves as police officers. They just started shooting. They probably wanted to keep his mouth shut. So he claims that the day of the assassination or so, one of his associates, nasty associates, came to his hotel room. All right. Said that this person, unnamed person, is still alive. So he's not going to out his identity. So he sits there and tells him, I got to get out of town. I just killed a cop. And then he didn't ask too many questions, but he said, why did you do that? And he says it was an accident. He was trying to shoot Lee Harvey Oswald, but hit the cop instead. So apparently the CIA and this crime family had issues with the crime family had issues with Oswald. They thought he would talk, or he got caught, or they thought he would get caught, which he did by chance, by the way. So Oswald was seen running, which he clearly admitted to the police, into a movie theater when a police officer was killed. And then he ran him back away, or tried to, and then he was arrested. But as I say, there were the eyewitnesses that saw him running. He lied to the police, of course. And it's really, really so this so-called hitman, all right, that was sitting in prison for doing 50 years, said he just gave him a little money and just let the guy skip town. So they just, I think what they did was they got upset because Lee Harvey Oswald got caught, or they heard on the radio looking for this person with this description. This was the 60s. They didn't have like supercomputers back then to go for fingerprints. They had to do it all by hand. Ballistics took forever to come back. So this was the 60s, and we had one of their partners, Jack Ruby, decided to take Lee Harvey Oswald out while the police were escorting him. And then another document Here's another document that was released. Says that the FBI, local police, they did nothing to protect. They did nothing to protect Lee Harvey Oswald. It's like they didn't give a shit. They were informed of a threat made or intelligence made that someone was out to kill Lee Harvey Oswald, but they didn't give a shit. So this guy who confessed to the crime, he says how he did it. He was hiding behind a fence with the he told us what gun he used. And he said that he took out a bullet and bit it. And that wasn't in the FBI files, actually, or presented to the Warren Commission, because that wasn't found. That wasn't found until 20 years, 30 years later, that bullet. It was found in 87 by someone, and they had no idea where that bullet came from or what its historical significance was. So this would tell us that the Secret Service and the FBI and local police didn't really look too hard at the grassy knoll, supposedly. They just spent most of their time at that book depository and along the route instead of canvassing out. Because if this guy was a convicted felon, which I suspect he was at the time, he was arrested for something, he may have been caught. Even in the 60s, it may have taken a week for the fingerprint to come back. So this guy was asked, do you have any evidence to back up your story? All right. Which is a good question, actually, because someone, in rare instances, could be confessing to a crime. Oh, I killed the Pope or I killed the president just to get attention. You know, that sick neurotic need for attention we see in this community. So he said that they kept records, and he knows where the records are. He hid them. But that bullet is one piece of evidence that was corrupt. Okay, that could be confirmed. There was another piece of evidence that was confirmed. But then we have another person that sort of backed up his story. This guy was retired from the CIA and broke his silence. So this guy claims that he used to, so he was ordered to make fake Secret Service IDs for the hitmen and other people, and make fake documents for Lee Harvey Oswald to do his job. Damn. That's damning, isn't it? So his story kind of lines up with his. Someone more credible than someone that is convicted of trying to shoot two cops. But you don't always get the most credible witnesses in these cases. A lot of the files that were released were, okay, this one has a file. They were looking at this one. They were looking at that one. They were looking at this one. And they found the guy in prison. Guess how they found him? Someone who passed away, all right, what an investigative reporter got an anonymous tip. It wasn't so-called anonymous, but it's someone from the FBI. Says, okay, look at this guy. They knew something. They knew. We don't know when they found out, but the FBI knows. So why don't they want these files released? It's been over 60 years. Most of the people are dead. It'd probably be a major embarrassment, wouldn't it? Taken out by your own government. Here's the thing. Here's my theory on it. I don't think there's documents to everything that happened. Why would a government agency create a paper trail on what they do? So he names the some of the people involved. That was Charles Nicoletti. He was a well-known gangster in Chicago. He was associated with Jack Ruby too. It's all, they all knew each other. It's like, and then they had this intelligence with Lee Harvey Oswald's name on it. Okay, he went to meet with this person. He went to meet with that person. Oh, here's this person's background report from back in the 50s and 60s. Oh, he got arrested in Caracas for the guy he met with for trying to assassinate someone else. So you see these so-called documents tell two different stories. It could be this, it could be that. I think that's what they're trying to do with these documents, is trying to confuse and mislead the public still. And I read that Lee Harvey Oswald's mother confirmed that Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA agent. It's like, whoa. There were several CIA agents there in Dallas, along with hired mobsters. It's rumored that they still do this. The CIA just contracts out. It's real sad, really. So when you have something like this, it's like the evidence doesn't. They don't have a lot of evidence against Lee Harvey Oswald. All right. The only thing that convinces me that he was involved in the Kennedy assassination was the fingerprints on the rifles and the ammunition. That's all they got. And then he was an employee at the book depository, or supposedly. That's it. But the burden in court would be proof beyond a reasonable doubt. And I don't think they had it. The weapon didn't match the police officer that shot the police officer. I don't know if any witnesses seen him leave the building or. But still, Lee Harvey Oswald did it. He's one of the people involved. All right. If he was getting government orders or not, I don't think it matters. He was still involved in the plot to assassinate the president of the United States. You get what I'm saying? He didn't do it alone. So there's two people spilling the beans. That CIA employee or agent that recorded an interview, he died. I think he was dying of cancer or something when he got an interview. He wanted to clear his conscience. So let me just, before we go, all right, let's just show what we have on him. All right, the one who claims he did it. So he's 83 years old, born in Oklahoma. His real name is James Sutton, aka James Files. So his crime was on May 7th, 1991. Illinois, Round Lake Beach. So it's attempted murder, 2 counts, aggravated discharge of a firearm, aggravated battery with the firearm, armed violence. And he claims, I don't know if I believe this is just his opinion. He said, because technically the 2 were cops, he didn't get a fair trial. They didn't want to hear self-defense. Well, I could believe that in a way, but maybe at that time it wasn't actually allowed in court, something like that. So he was convicted. So, and it says here he got parole in 2016. So he claims Files gave interviews stating that he was the Grassy Knoll shooter in the 1963 assassination of JFK. So the FBI in 1994 investigated Files' allegation and found it not to be credible. Of course. Why would they want to admit they screwed up? And these declassified documents are proving that they didn't investigate much of anything. Neither did the local police. It was mostly the Secret Service who did anything in this matter. So the story here, all right, I'm trying to report both sides of the story, but Files and his friend David Morley were involved in a roadside shootout in Round Lake Beach, Illinois, with 2 police officers, Detective David Ostertag and his partner Gary Bittler. They tried to apprehend the 2 for driving a stolen vehicle. During the shootout, Morley shot Detective Ostertag in the chest. Both Files and Morley shot at Detective Bittler, but it missed. They were arrested a few hours later. So you see that they were driving a stolen vehicle. So I don't know what to believe on this, you know? And this guy said that when they made the JFK film, they came in the prison where he was at and started asking questions, and he wouldn't talk to Oliver Stone. He said he didn't like him. And he actually showed proof that he actually met with Oliver Stone and says, I'm not talking. So I think this is just a theory of mine, but I think this guy is talking. So the story's out there and says, okay, he talked. We failed at taking him down or whatever you want to call it. So this story is sort of backed up by another person. So we're going to be looking forward to more declassified files in the next month or so. So keep an eye out for those, all right? I'm going to put the interview with this jailbird in the description so everyone can watch for themselves what I'm talking about. And I'll also put the video with this former CIA agent, him talking about his involvement in the Kennedy assassination, his work at the CIA, so everyone can make up their minds. So, does anyone have any questions or? So, before we go, so they made the okay, so we got a movie JFK. I don't know how accurate it's gonna. I don't know how accurate it was. So they made a movie on it. They actually were in the right place to question people, but some people didn't talk. So all right, everyone. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, and I didn't get a lot of traction. So there's always the replay. So all right, everyone. I'll see everyone later.